Okay, good evening. We want to welcome you to the joint meeting of the Cotati City Council and the successor agency to the former Cotati Community Redevelopment Agency. So we're starting our meeting with a call to order and roll calls. Can we have a roll call?
Councilmember Savage,
Here.
Councilmember Ford,
Here.
Vice Mayor Harvey,
Here.
Mayor Lemus.
Here. Thank you. Okay, the second item is approval of minutes and notice of waiving of reading of all resolutions and ordinances introduced and or adopted under this agenda. So we have minutes from the regular meeting of January 27, 2026. Is there any changes or comments?
I just want to make one suggestion so that it's clear to anybody looking back in the future at these minutes that we list Councilmember Sparks as leave of absence rather than simply absent, given that we have granted that leave of absence. And otherwise, if it was just an absence, it would trigger our, consecutive meetings missed issue.
Okay. Thank you.
See any issue with that listing, leave of absence? Okay.
Good. Okay. All right. Anyone else have any comments on the minutes? No? Okay. Okay. So we'll open it up to public comment and we'll start with Zoom first on the minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Speaking to our Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please use the raise hand icon. Mayor Lemus, there are no hands on Zoom.
Thank you. Okay. So then we'll ask in the room if there's anyone in the room that would like to make comments on the minutes from last meeting, January 27, 2026. Anyone in the room? Okay, seeing no one, we'll go ahead and move to a
approve.
motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. So that passes. Okay, so for our next item, we have a proclamation today. And we have a proclamation from the City Council and the City of Cotati declaring the month of February as 2026 Black History Month. So do we do public comment first on this? Okay, so we'll start with public comment. Do we do public comment first? Okay, we'll start with public comment and we'll start in the room. Anyone in the room that wants to make public comment on the proclamation for today? I will ask you after to come up during the proclamation. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, checking with our Zoom attendees. Once again, please use the raise hand icon if you'd like to make a comment on this item. Seeing no hands, Mayor Lemus, that will end public comment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I have a proclamation here to declare the month of February 2026 as Black History Month. And we do this every year. And I'm so proud that I sent an invitation and it was accepted by Sonoma State University. We have Raquel Holmes and Ishan from Sonoma State University and also Ayana Nelson from the Black Student Union. I know we have a few other students from Sonoma State that are on their way, maybe, possibly with Tremaine Austin Dillon, who is the advisor for the Black Student Union. So I'm hoping that they're able to arrive in time to receive part of this. But I'll go ahead and read the proclamation. So if you want to go ahead and approach the podium, and then I'll read the proclamation to you. And Ayana, you can join them if you like. Thank you. I'm so thankful to have you here today. The proclamation of the City Council of the City of Cotati declaring the month of February 2026 as Black History Month. Whereas the National African American History Month first originated as Negro History Week in 1926 as part of an initiative by writer and educator Dr. Carter G. Woodson to recognize the heritage and achievements of African Americans and to enhance knowledge about African American history. And whereas a national theme for Black History Month in 2026 is a century of Black history commemorations that honors 100 years of celebrating, studying, and preserving Black history, recognizing the evolution from a week-long initiative to a month-long national and global observance. And whereas as we celebrate the 250th birthday of our country, this theme highlights the importance of preserving Black history, especially in the face of efforts to erase this history from our public spaces, museums, and schools. And whereas in celebrating the entire history of African Americans, the city places into the national spotlight the wide-ranging contributions to the history of the United States with an eye towards what the rest of the 21st century will bring. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Cotati proclaims the month of February as Black History Month in Cotati and calls on a community to study African American history and advocate for preserving an inclusive and accurate history in our schools and public spaces by visiting sites such as ASALH.org, which is Association for the Study of African American Life and History, attending local Black History Month events, and to acknowledging the value that African American community members add to the vibrancy and culture of our city. So I'm very thankful to have Raquel, Ishan, and Ayana with us today. So I want to ask if you want to share a few words today.
I actually do. It is a real honor to be here to accept the proclamation. I came to Cotati because my father, Lavelle Holmes, was a professor at Sonoma State, a professor of history, a founder of the Ethnic Studies program. I grew up around the corner on El Rancho Drive and now live out on West Sierra Avenue. It is a pleasure to have such a proclamation of having our history recognized and having it be part of our presence, not only the past, but our current existence, and to have all the fabulous people of Sonoma State that are part of bringing education and celebrating the excellence that is African-American contributions in Cotati here. Thank you for having the proclamation, for inviting Sonoma State, which has brought a presence and a voice to Black voices in Cotati and Sonoma County to the table. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I wonder if other people want to share a few words. The Black Student Union, I know we have the president, the historian. If you want to just say your name and who you are and share a few words.
Hi, my name is Yanni. I'm ducked down a little bit. Hi, my name is Yanni. I am the president of the Black Student Union at Sonoma State University. It's an honor to be here today. I would first and foremost like to say thank you for having us, but also just to address that Black History Month is a beautiful thing, but we are Black and proud and excellent every month, 12 months a year, not just one, but this is a beautiful thing, and thank you for doing this for us.
Thank you. Anyone else want to just share your name?
Hello, my name is Iona Nelson. I'm the secretary of SSU BSU. I just would like to say that this is an honor not only to be accepting an award amongst the officers and board of the BSU, but to be here as a student of SSU. I'm not from this area, but I came down here because my grandma came to SSU. I can't remember the year, but she's about 80 years old now, and she was my inspiration of coming to the school, and it's an honor to come here and accept this award today. So thank you guys so much for inviting us here today, and this is a monumentous occasion. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kyra. I'm the Sonoma State historian. I'm pretty young, but yeah, and we're just super, super grateful to be able to come here and receive this award from you all. And again, we're super proud to be Black, but to also be thriving in excellence and in every other area. And we just thank you all so much for having us.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Fatia. I am the advertisement for the Sonoma State BSU. Thank you guys for having us and recognizing us as Black students at Sonoma State that hasn't always had a BSU or had great representation for Black voices. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And we're so happy to have you. Ishan, you want to say?
Yes. I am also a resident of Cotati, live down the street. Been here 10, going on 11 years, and been in this county for close to 37 years. Came as a student to Sonoma State, still staff here at Sonoma State. So I've seen this area grow culturally, and so I'm just thankful that we are being recognized and that Black History Month is recognized, and that we are recognized each and every day in the process, not just 1 month out of the year.
Exactly. Thank you. We're so happy to have you. So if you don't mind, we want to come down and take a picture with you, and we have some proclamations for you to take back with you too. Thank you.
Against the podium there. Yeah. Sure.
You want to do together? I'm going to get this up until
There you go. Very nice smile. Beautiful.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for being here.
Okay, so go on to the next slide. Okay, the next item we have is agenda review. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
No proposed changes, Mayor.
No changes, okay. The next item we have is citizen business and public comment for consent calendar items. Any member of the public wishing to speak to the council on any item listed on the consent calendar or any matters not listed on the agenda that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the council is not allowed to consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Pursuant to City Council Policy 2025-03, comments of any member of the public are normally restricted to a total of 3 minutes in length per person for matters not on the agenda and a total of 3 minutes per person in length for any and all items on the consent calendar. The mayor may extend the time limit for a reasonable time when a disability accommodation has been requested. To facilitate public comment, the timer indicator lights will display yellow when there are 30 seconds remaining and red when time has expired. So we're going to take public comment at this time, and we'll start with in a room. Is there anyone in the room that, let me see if I have cards. Public comment? Let me see. Mr. Barrage?
Madam Mayor, I gave you a speaker card. Would you mind reading it?
Mhm.
What I put down?
Go ahead.
Would you mind reading it? The speaker card. You do mind reading it? Is English your first language, ma'am?
Oh.
Can you read the speaker card, ma'am?
Mr. Barrett, you can proceed. Your time is going, so go ahead.
I would just ask to be recognized for what I put down on the speaker card. Is there some animosity or resentment here? You can't call me by what I put down on the speaker card? Refusing the answer? Okay. For the benefit of the audience, this fiasco has been going on for years now. My name is George Barrich. I'm a former city councilman here in the city of Cotati, and I put down on my speaker card, Councilman Barrich, but this city council refuses to follow proper etiquette and give people the respect they deserve, which is really ridiculous after what we just saw here. You give all these nice people respect, but not me, another man of color. All right? So also, since the city council fails to open up this meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance, as was done for almost 50 years, may we all stand, please, for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, council, this code enforcement fiasco that's been going on for 2.5 years, I want you to remind you, in case the city manager won't remind you, is that I have never asked for a hearing on anything. Okay? I asked for a fine amount for some ridiculous, made-up, bogus code violation. I asked for a fine amount. I never got one until just very recently. Mr. Smith refused to give me a fine amount, yet my insurance carrier was sitting back waiting to see if they wanted to pay a fine or not and save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in persecution. I didn't have to show up for any hearing. Didn't ask for a hearing. I showed up because I was curious as all hell. What in the hell you're doing? I could have stayed home, simply waited for a silly fine to come in the mail. Never came. But I came down, I humored the city council. They're paying for it. I'm not paying for it. I didn't call for it. We're stalling a show trial. I'm not going to pay for that. Give me the fine. Couldn't do it because you want to add up those administrative fees. Then come back through some legal finagling to try to hold me responsible. Not going to work. First year law students can tell you that's not going to work. Now your rent-a-judge, Mr. Weiner, said to me early on in your informal hearings, Mr. Barrett, you can't ask any questions. You can't object. You must have an attorney to write legal briefs for you. And went against your administrative policy to have an informal hearing. Violated those rights. Smith also told my attorney, I can't put more decorative rock in my backyard. Said I had to lock my 2 gates going into my backyard. Nothing could go in and out of my back gates. No motorcycle, no tractor, no mower, nothing. Told me I had to tear out part of my asphalt on my property, a small area, to meet some ridiculous percentage that did not exist, apply to me in 1994. Said I cannot park my cars in my backyard, Mr. Ford. Cannot park my cars or my motorcycle or my boat in my backyard. I was in violation. Mr. Damien tell you that, Mr. Obid? He said that I couldn't go in and out of my RV in my own backyard because that was habitating. Could only go in and out of it when I was out on the street. Should shock you. Smith also said that I needed
Your time's up. Your
get a
time's
city
up.
permit. Yeah.
Yeah, your
I
time's
need
up.
to get a city permit to have a roommate, Mr. Ford, a roommate.
Your time's up, Mr. Barrett.
Do you believe that? I had to get a permit. Thank you, Mayor. At least I refer to you as Mayor.
Okay, Ms. Alderman?
First, I like to again complain. This is the second meeting that, because I'm now in a wheelchair, the only accessible door is not compliant because my wheelchair cannot get through it. The ramp is slippery and wet, and it's a big liability for me. And Craig Scott came out with me 2 weeks ago at the council meeting to see how, and he saw how inaccessible it is. Okay. Sorry, I'm having trouble talking tonight. I went back for the last 2 years. Everything's passed again. I went to federal court unanimously. I went to federal court in 2019 about this unanimous vote record. It doesn't matter that we're all here or not. That's why there's not crowds in here. You gonna pass it if the staff puts it on. It's been going on. It's definitely the last 2 years, so you're all unanimous. And it does, even if there's ups, so that's how you keep control. You keep control of everything. Talking about control, I had a very factual post on social media next door about the flower guy and how what was said about at the meeting. Within 4 hours, Damien over here is writing Michael saying that he's fine, that basically they won't cite him. It's like going in 65 miles in a 45-mile zone, and the police chief is told by the city manager that Michael can do that. So you got that's, and then Mr. Savage on Sunday got an email from somebody and wrote back and tried to get my post removed because he said it was a rumor. And so why then are you going to stop interfering with public comment and everything? Mr. Savage has never, ever wrote me back from any of my emails, but heck, if somebody wants to mess up the public social media, they're right there. You can't control things like this. It's horrible. And this is how you keep your control. I'm going to talk way much more about the code enforcement one. But I wanted to go over the personal things. You guys have held me hostage for 2.5 years on this. I can't go anywhere because we're spending so much money. I'm the paralegal. They've spent so much money on legal. I have to write. I have to do my paralegal work. I can't go anywhere because there's always a new motion or anything. I've been told horrible things about myself. I've been told to shut up, sit down, not make facial expressions. This has been cruel.
Okay, is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak on citizen business and public comment for consent calendar items? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I've given all of you copies of the California Public Records Act, Government Code, Section 7920 through 7931. Starts off with 7922.525, which is the Chapter 1, Article 2. Public records are open to inspection at all times during the office hours of a state or local agency. And every person has a right to inspect any public record, except as otherwise provided. The second page has Article 4. It's the duty to assist in formulating a request. When a member of the public requests to inspect a public record or obtain a copy of a public record, the public agency, in order to assist the member of the public make a focused and effective request that reasonably describes an identifiable record or records, shall do all of the following. I'm not going to read all of those, but it's mainly to assist in finding out exactly what you want. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I've requested several times different information. One of them that is very pertinent to what these last two speakers talked about was the request for the initial contract between Mr. Gary Weiner, your ALJ, and Robert Smith. I went in today and talked to Mr. Hausch because I talked to Mr. Patterson. He said he did not have a copy of it. Mr. Hausch might. Mr. Hausch said he did not have a copy of it. Now, my question is, being that Mr. Smith is an agent of the city, works 4 hours supposedly a week, but is getting compensated $120,000 in your new budget for code enforcement, unless you've hired a whole lot of other code enforcement people to take care of all of Mr. Barich's complaints that are at the bottom of the pile. It would seem to me that Mr. Smith, being an agent of the city and hiring Mr. Weiner to be the hearing officer for the Barich hearing, you would have a contract. You don't. So now I have to request it from Mr. Smith. That's nonsense. This is why the city is supposed to assist you in getting to what you want. Now, let me go down my list here. See, I've covered some of it already. December 8th, I see a contract was given to me in my public records request between Mr. Obed and Mr. Weiner. Now the question is, why is there an update to the contract? What all of a sudden occurred to you after 2.5 years of hearings that you need to have a new contract and there's not a middleman who's kind of suspect because he's was the prosecuting attorney in this case. All of this points out to a system that is set up as a no-win for the accused. Code enforcement and attorneys, Smith and No, aided by staff, did not provide exculpatory evidence when they had it. Smith continues to impose fines for non-existent violations, which Mr. Barich's attorney has proven during testimony. Attitude is to get Barich at all costs, but that's a topic for a later agenda item. City hires the hearing officer. Your code says ignore the constitutional law. You build up admin costs way beyond anything of reason, $291,000, and then expect this man to pay for it? The ALJ always rules for the city. The superior courts in this county always back the city, same in my county. This is corruption, not about compliance, and it needs to be changed. Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else in the room would like to make public comment? This for consent calendar items and citizen business? Okay, not seeing none, we'll go to Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Once again, Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand icon. Seeing no hands, Mayor Lemus, that will end public comment.
Okay, thank you. So we have 2 items on the consent calendar. Is there any questions of the council on the consent? Or how about
approve?
move to approve? Okay,
Second.
second. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes. Okay. Do we have direction on future agenda items? Is there anyone? Nope. Okay. Okay. Okay, so then we'll go to the regular agenda. So the regular agenda, the first item that we have is Sierra Insurance Update. Thank you. Thank you. Sierra Insurance Update. Do we have a presentation on that?
Mayor, yes, not just a verbal presentation. The items in their packet, but I just thought it would be just timely. There's a lot of things. I think the council knows that the insurance markets for many years have been kind of whirling. Property insurance was problematic for several years. General liability is also, problematic, and there's a lot of reasons for it. I thought it was a interesting summary of what's going on in the general liability market that was put together by Prism, they're a risk management JPA, and started in California, but it actually is I think a lot of the Western U.S. So they're actually one of the large players in the risk business. So insurance, basically an insurance business. So you can see from just to touch on some of the highlights, there's been a consistent pattern of legal system abuse, and particularly in some parts of the country. So tort reform is something that's been on the agenda for a lot of people for a long time. But the plaintiffs' bars are pretty strong, and they managed to get some pretty strong laws in place that allow for big awards. And in there, you'll see in the map, it's, Georgia, Texas, or Georgia, Florida, California are among the worst in terms of tort claims. And Texas and other states are right behind us. But one thing I'll just call out in the tort system. So in 2022, the total awards were $529 billion, or it equates to 2.1% of the gross domestic product. So it's a giant amount of money, or $4,200 per household is essentially what everyone pays for those legal settlements. And something notable that happened in California was AB 218. This happened in 2019. So this was the law that reopened old sexual abuse claims and extended it until age 40. So there was a lot of, not so much in cities, but school districts in particular. So Prism, this group, they insure school districts. And so some counties, school districts that ran juvenile programs. So on the county side, it'd be like juvenile detention centers, and on this schools, on the, I guess, local jurisdiction side, it was school systems. And there was some giant awards. There's some that are called out here from LA. I mean, there was one that the LA Unified School District Board had to sell $500 million in bonds just to stabilize their budget to pay the claims. And there was another interesting thing. It's just called, they call it social inflation, where awards that used to be one number just a decade ago now are astronomically bigger. And the one example in there that illustrates that well is the so-called McDonald's coffee claim. I think everyone remembers that, when someone bought a cup of coffee at McDonald's and it was allegedly too hot and it spilled in their lap and they sued McDonald's for it. At the time, it was a $3 million award, which was shocking. This was in the early 90s, yeah. It was a shocking award because nobody had seen an award that big, especially for something that seemingly so, I don't know, nuisance-y as a type claim. And that would be, in today's dollars, about $6.4 million. So that a very similar claim was awarded against Starbucks last March. And that what was a $3 million claim in the early 90s was a $50 million claim last year for spilling hot coffee on you. So there's just, those things are, they've gotten to the point now with tort claims that they say about half of the expenses go to the attorneys, and the rest, well, and a lot of these laws are pushed by plaintiffs' bars. I was making an observation the other day, just when I was driving up to Tahoe, the Tahoe area. And I remember a time when you go up the freeway and on the billboards, you see all sorts of different things advertised. And now it's almost exclusively, litigation. So it's a sign of the times. There's another thing that's a relatively recent invention, which is they call it third-party litigation funding. So like you can invest in stocks, you can invest in bonds, you can invest in litigation if you want now. So if there's these funds that basically take investor money to push litigation, and they basically are a way to, it's just like any investment. People think that they're going to get returns, and so it's one of the dynamics in the market that's driving up these claim costs. So just higher volume, higher settlement, increased litigation costs, more frivolous claims, and ultimately higher premiums, which means higher costs. There's a lot of talk, nationally about the cost of just the cost of living, and this is a big part of it. It drives into everything that we do. And then I guess just lastly, I will just say that there's this, it's kind of funny, there's this group called the American Tort Reform Foundation, the ATRF, and every year they publish this this judicial hellholes, they call it, report, and it's the the states or areas that have the worst tort issues. It's places where judges in civil cases systematically apply laws and court procedures in an unfair and unbalanced manner, generally to disadvantage of defendants. So, there's just a lot of dynamics. I won't get into all the rest of the detail, but those are the high level ones. And groups like PRISM. So we are, and just so you know, we're part of PRISM. So CIRA has the initial layer of insurance, and PRISM is in general liability. PRISM is the upper layer. And so there's been a lot of talk about pooling. You'll notice PRISM also recently did a captive, which is another mechanism that I'll talk about in a second with CIRA. But they're trying to group purchase insurance. It's a very hard market because of the astronomical increase in the cost of claims. So they're the market's harder because like any capital, it goes to area. Capital tends to flow to areas where people think they'll make money. And if there's a lot of losses in insurance, for example, it's the insurance companies don't take the losses. It's basically the community takes the losses, right? And no matter where you are in the country, that's just how it works. And on the subject of captives, as I mentioned, PRISM is doing a captive, and one of the reasons why they're doing a captive is it's another way to try to mitigate premiums. because captives are able to invest their equity in more things so that they can earn higher returns. So if you earn higher returns, that means that you have to collect less in premiums. So it's a way to offset some of the cost of the insurance. In the case of CIRA, CIRA is about halfway through the process of forming a captive. And there's the presentation that was attached has a lot of different sort of advantages and, explanations about what a captive is. I won't go through it, but obviously if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer it. It's something that insurance pools are doing more and more of. It's basically what it is it's setting up a nonprofit insurance company that acts as a reinvestor of the funds of the JPA. So in this case, you can do a rent-to-sell type captive where there's already a captive set up. And it's called captive. It's called a captive insurance company, by the way, because that insurance company that's established only has one purpose in life, and that's just to serve the member, right? In the case of CIRA, it's just to serve CIRA. In the case of the rent-to-sell style model, some groups set up a captive and they let other groups rent a cell in the captive, so they can basically get under the governance and organization of that captive and use that to invest like a captive can reinvest. So CIRA is working on a single parent captive, which would be CIRA in this case. And they chose to domicile the captive in Utah for a variety of reasons. It's a very low cost. So California doesn't even allow captives, just in general. Most, like Vermont, is a very popular state for captives. Utah, Arizona. There's some others too, like Hawaii, but there's obviously optic reasons for not going to Hawaii. And Utah just has they're very used to it, so it's easy to set them up there. And they also are, when you join a captive, you're able to, with the investment assets, you're able to invest them in conservative but more things. So, for example, as a California governmental entity, we can essentially only invest in like treasuries and treasuries and CDs and that type of investment vehicle. And this is an outflow of Orange County. I don't know if you guys remember, but probably about 20, 30 years ago, you might remember. Orange County was investing in a bunch of stuff that they shouldn't have been investing in. The market went south. They lost their investments, and the county went bankrupt. So in response to that, the state basically shut down all investment avenues for governments except for the very most stable investments. The consequence of that, of course, is that the returns that you can get are much, much lower than if you have more options like in stocks, like equity, right? So captives are able to invest in equity and other things. So rather than, a 4% return, you can get like a 7 or 8% return with still very conservative and safe investments. And if you get a higher rate of return, that means that the insurance premiums that the insurance JPAs have to pass on to the members is lower. And it basically sets it up like a private insurance. So if you go out and get insurance at State Farm or Allied or whatever insurance company you use, it's the same idea. So any insurance company can invest their assets in whatever they want. It's a very similar investment perspective. And that the captive is looking to be live July 1 of this year. And CIRA's plan is to move all the different lines. So general liability, property, and workers' compensation are the three major lines. They're looking at moving self-insured lines. They're looking at moving those self-insured lines into the captive, except for the operational kind of front end of it, which would stay here. It has a separate board. Like I said, it's a nonprofit, but that's it at a high level. I'm happy to answer any questions if the council has any.
Thank you. Does anyone in the council have any questions? Councilmember
So
Ford?
it would be the CIRA board that authorizes this. This won't come back for city council approval or something like that. It's CIRA business operating procedure.
It's a CIRA, yeah, the CIRA board makes the decision.
This separate board, would the participants in CIRA still staff the new board as well, I assume? Or who would be this new board of the captains?
It's still the governance structure is still being finalized, but it would be a combination of, so in Utah, you have to have one Utah member on the board. That's going to be the attorney, I assume, that's retained out of Utah. And then the other members would probably be a combination of CIRA staff and CIRA board members.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll go to the public for any public questions. Go ahead, Ms. Alderman.
Damien talking about tort reform. He has no idea what the heck he's talking about. For one thing, the McDonald's coffee case, we studied it in my paralegal school. The lady had burns on her. It was not frivolous. And it led to changes in the whole industry about coffee being too hot coming out of the thing. And that's basically everything is frivolous to him. Every lawsuit. In 2019, I went to federal court. I wrote my own pro se. I wrote my home with not asking for 1 cent in damages. I wanted injunctive relief to improve public comment. What did the city attorneys get? $50,000 to kill mine within 3 months. When I took Measure S, when in 2020, from G to S for ballot misleading ballot wording, I get threatened with frivolous lawsuit, attorney. Anytime I get I'm on disability. I'm pretty much, you can't sue me, but I've been threatened for years. And because of these insurance attorneys that and he's giving you not what the reality is when it comes to tort reform. Yes, there are frivolous lawsuits, but there are like the ones I filed, George filed, ADA claims, they are not frivolous. And Noah and the HOA manager were like, let's get together and stop George from filing more frivolous lawsuits. Frivolous lawsuits are your excuse. And you're horrible. You put people in fear of coming forward because you will threaten them with attorney fees every time. The last time was a restraining order against Mark Lamon. The city attorney had a fit in front of the judge because he could not charge me with the attorney fees. I'm broke. I have no assets. I don't understand why you think you believe this man on all of this. He is totally warped sense of what is really going on. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Marriage.
I think the city manager's report was dismal. It's a whitewash, a bunch of propaganda, and I'll set you straight. What's happening with these increasing insurance situations and premiums and payouts and so forth from the business magazines I'm reading oftentimes comes down to incompetency in corporations, incompetency in government entities, bureaucracies where people don't care about other people. The arbitrators in these cases are actually telling the cities and the agencies to come up with their numbers because the abuses are so egregious. There are city leaders and bureaucrats who won't cross the aisle and try to cooperate with injured parties. They won't call them back. They won't answer emails. They won't meet you in public. They won't try to bring the parties together. That's what's driving up the insurance costs and driving up these huge awards with punitive damages that are coming down on these government entities saying, look, we have no option left other than to punish you, to try to bring you back into reasonableness with who you represent and why you represent. Let's just take the ADA, the door out here that Ms. Alderman is complaining about. That's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Nothing's been done. It's an abomination. If I was running this city hall, I would have taken a crowbar. I would have opened that door up, open for wheelchair accessibility. I would have plywooded it up after closing hours, and I would have taken that plywood off during the day so that people like Ms. Alderman could get through. But no, you guys are so incompetent and your staff is so incompetent, you leave it at ADA violation. It's shocking. You're inviting the litigation by your complacency and laziness and your arrogance. Then you use these offices as weapons to go after your political rivals. That's where this gets ugly, and that's what the jury sees. That's what the judges sees, and they're driving up these awards. And who's picking up the premiums? We, the taxpayers. While you guys get reelected or appointed to a city council seat without ever running or getting a vote from anybody, and these juries are getting furious, and they're driving up the cost of all of this because you either have not learned how to become city leaders, you took no courses in public administration, you took no courses in business or government to know what you're doing, you didn't read the Brown Act, and as Mr. Charamello said, you don't even know what the public records request says. He goes to Mr. House today, he doesn't know anything about the Public Records Act. It's shocking. How can you believe Mr. Obid putting this cloud on the taxpayers and greedy citizens trying to profit off honorable government? The government's not honorable. Haven't been honorable. They're not holding office hours. You're not reaching out to anybody. Mrs. Harvey in 20 years probably has never returned my email. That's what's happening. And furthermore, what's going on with the insurance industry is that they're failing to cover intentional acts on behalf of government leaders and government employees. They're saying, if you did an intentional act, citizens warned you, we're denying the claim. Then the awards are going sky high. Why can't we get both sides of a report? That's why some of us are here. We want both sides of the issue, not a whitewashed, sanitized version.
Anyone else in the room? Okay, Mr. Charamello.
Yes, I thought, unlike the other speakers, Mr. Obid's remarks were quite on target. But he was wrong about a couple of things. Unless you look at the Obama bailout of the insurance industry as still coming back in the people through federal taxes. And Orange County went bankrupt because they were investing in derivatives. I don't know whether Mr. Obid even knows what derivatives are. I have a degree in finance, and we definitely studied that way back in the 1980s, I believe. But Mr. Obid is right. There are costs that are going up. And Mr. Barrett is right, because there's a reason these costs are going up. Instead of doing things reasonably, and this is what we should be doing so that these costs aren't engendered in the first place, we're out there looking to punish people. And that's what's happened with Mr. Barish. I'm not going to get into that again because that's really not the topic here. But if you want to continue doing what you're doing and doing it the way you've been doing it, then expect Mr. Obed to come back with saying that we need a large increase in insurance and that we're going to have to pay for this. Because if you open yourself up, and this is what this city has been doing, you're opening yourself up to litigation because of the actions that you take or that you don't take. You sit up there in silence and don't say a word against anything that staff proposes. And you're not alone. This happens in city after city that I go to. It's always, they listen to staff. They don't listen to the public, or rarely listen to the public. But if you want to end this, this is the same way with the hiring practice. Why is it costing us more for staff all the time? Because this city increases theirs, that city increases theirs. Then we have to compete and increase ours. Well, it's the same way with this. All these cities are doing the same thing. You act as elitist potentates and you do what staff recommends and you create the situation to get litigated against. Yeah, that's the bottom line. So you get to make up your mind what you want to do somewhere down the line. It's not going to happen tonight. This isn't an action. It's just an update. And I think that we've covered both sides of this now. There are more than one way to look at it. Mr. Obed presented one side. The other speakers presented the other. You're the ones that have to say, what are we going to do about it? Thank you.
Okay, anyone else in the room want to speak on this topic? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to Zoom. Kevin?
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a comment on this item. Seeing no hands, Mayor Lemus, that will end public comment.
Thank you. So there's no action on this one. It's just an update. So I don't know if there's any final comments that any council members would like to make.
I just have one follow-up question. Have we looked into the ADA issues that have been raised and looked at City Hall access?
Yes, we are actively looking into it.
Okay, great. Yeah, love to see those resolved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to the next item then. The next item is the mid-year financial report for fiscal year 25-26.
Perfect.
Presentation?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, I'll be presenting the city's mid-year budget to actuals review for fiscal year 25-26. This review covers our financial position through December 31st, 2025, and provides a snapshot of how revenues, expenditures, and cash are tracking halfway through the fiscal year. Next slide. Within this presentation, we have it organized into a few main categories: the citywide overview, the general fund, enterprise funds, which are water and wastewater. Finally, a summary of cash and investments. And then lastly, it didn't include it on this slide, but we'll go over the fiscal resilience evaluation. Next slide. And then we're going to jump right to the next one. So here's a summary of the citywide revenues and expenses compared to budget as of December 31st, as well as the comparative actual revenues and expenses as of the same time for each fund type. So there are several funds, again, within the special revenue funds and the capital projects and the internal services. Overall, revenues and expenditures citywide are in line with expectations, where revenues are at approximately 48% of budget and expenses are at 46% of budget. Just as a reminder, most activity for the city is managed within the general fund. And the other two major funds, the enterprise services, which are operated like a business, are running the water and wastewater. We're going to dive into those in a couple slides. And those are considered our major funds. But I do want to recommend anyone who's interested in learning more about these fund types, what they are, how the city uses them. We go into depth in our city budget, which is available online at www.cataudicity.org. Next slide, please. So overall, at a high level, citywide revenues and expenses are on target. Staff are proposing some minor budget adjustments to better align with revised expectations, but there's no significant structural concerns around our operations at this time. Some fund types appear below 50% on the revenue side, primarily due to timing. We always have that timing differential. For example, the general fund, we have the sales tax and other taxes, which were received 2 months after activity occurs. We have capital projects funds and special revenue funds, which primarily focus on funding other special capital projects, but those fluctuate based on the timing of those projects. Importantly, there was no fund group which shows expenditures exceeding 50% as of mid-year, which indicates that spending is generally tracking as expected. Next slide. Okay. Although revenues are only, so looking at the general fund, a little bit deeper dive. Although revenues are only at 41.3% of budget through the mid-year for the current year, comparing this to the same period and last year has increased. So the general fund operating revenues are slightly higher overall, and this is primarily due to, again, the increased revenues for sales tax, even though overall we're off from budget, they have increased. And we have other operational increases. Primary due, but we do lack, we're not at that 50% because of the timing of the revenue sources, again, those sales tax. General fund operating revenues, that's the all revenues except for investment earnings, contributions, and transfers in, are approximately 211,000 more than the same period last year. So looking at the detailed revenue schedule as included in the mid-year report on packet page 75, but report page 3, sales tax has decreased by approximately 1.5% from the prior year. And we kind of were diving, looking more into this and working with our consultants who help us with our sales tax to track what's coming in, what's not, what's happening in the consumer market. And we're, as such, proposing to decrease our expectations in sales revenue by approximately 92,000 for the fiscal year. So those changes are to a total of 5.7 million. Is what our change is going to be from 5.8 previously. So that is something we are proposing. We are expecting to bring in a little bit less, unfortunately, but we don't think that there's a significant impact that refers to the rest of the revenues and expenses at this time. We'll get into expenses a little bit later. This chart, the next slide, please. This chart shows the mix of general fund revenues. Of course, sales tax is primarily the big piece. And again, measure S is about half of that big blue piece there. And property tax is also the next largest piece for the city's revenue. Following behind, we have community development charges and other taxes. We are proposing to increase the community development service charges revenues for this year. As timing for receipts have come in for some projects for building permits that we do not necessarily always budget on because we don't know what the timing of them are going to be. And so those have come in. And so now we feel like it's a good time to increase those revenues. Transfers in primarily come from Public Safety Special Revenue Fund, which receives restricted revenues such as Prop 172 and the SLISA funds. And these are used to support the front row police services. And so again, we keep those in our special revenue fund, but then they just go right back into our general fund to help fund the police services. And then again, those small categories down the end where you can't see the dollar amount come up to a grand total of 31,000 between the two. There's even a tiny little sliver that you can't see next to public safety, but that is public safety as well as contributions. Next slide. So now we'll dig into our expenses. So on the expense side, the general fund spending is generally consistent with expectations. Overall expenditures have increased compared to last year, as all of everyone's expenses have, I'm sure. Largely for the city is due to timing of transfers out for capital projects. We have some amazing park projects that are happening right now, and we're funding those. And then we do also have some ongoing higher contract service costs related to legal and IT services. And we have some unplanned continued costs for code enforcement matters that we are proposing a targeted adjustment for to cover those costs. And then keep the overall spending within those available resources. Next slide. So now I'll move into the enterprise funds, which include the water and wastewater operations. These funds operate more like a business enterprise with revenues generated primarily through user fees rather than taxes. So this table includes the cumulative revenues and expense comparison for the first half of the year for the water enterprise funds. Both the the operational revenues compared to the prior year for water fund are up 5.3%. This is due to our rates primarily. For fiscal year 25-26, most expenses are in line with budget at mid-year. However, so with that expenses, we're reviewing that as well as the revenues, and we do note we've had increased investment earnings above our expectations because of the allocation of cash that they've been able to hold in there due to timing of projects. And so we do want to propose an increase in those revenues for approximately $30,000, increasing it to a balance of interest earning revenue for the year to $102,000. Next slide. So on to wastewater fund, where the revenues are again at about 50% of budget and expenses are approximately 49%. So it's really tracking along almost identically to the year. Revenues are slightly stronger than anticipated, including again, those interest earnings. We are proposing to increase also their interest earnings by another $30,000. The operating expenses on the other side are remaining well controlled as we continue to monitor the fund balance in order to make sure we are building back up this fund. Staff are, again, proposing that adjustment for the investment earnings, and we're going to continue to monitor contract service costs going forward to make sure we continue to be aligned for this fund. Next slide. This section provides a snapshot of the city's cash and investment portion of our funds as of December 31st. So as compared to the income statement, this is a snapshot as of a point in time on December 31st. So it doesn't show, you know, a trend or anything like that. It's just this is what our cash was at that point in time. Next slide. So total cash and investments exceeded 14.9 million, which is consistent with the city's investment policy and sufficient to meet our operational needs for at least the next 6 months per our policy. For more information on the status of the city's investments, we've again included the quarterly investment report as of December 31st. It's included on packet pages 97 to 101. Next slide. So while looking at, you know, 14.9 million is interesting, it's not as interesting as actually seeing it divided out into how the city actually holds these funds. So these tables show how the cash is both on the top left chart broken between the amount of cash that's held in each of the funds or the funds groupings, and then the bottom right graph shows it into the group of where the actual cash or investments are held. So again, it's not, you know, the general fund has its own bank account and it does its own, you know, investment. It's all held in pooled funds across the city that is then allocated based on the proportional balance of cash as of the end of the month. Next slide. So this slide summarizes the key fiscal resilience indicators that we've come to. Details on the indicators that are tracked and reported are included within the packet at pages 105 to 108. So we do still have within the general fund, the cash coverage is just temporarily reduced due to early expenditures, subscriptions, projects as park projects and things, but it's expected to normalize as revenues are continued to be received. We get some grant reimbursements coming in. We really expect those balances to come back That's the same thing with the revenues to operating expenditures ratio. Still remains below target, but we do anticipate within the next few months with collections on grants and other revenues, the balances are going to be more in line with goals. Again, this is a trend where we are at this point in time, kind of every year. In the water fund, we still have that yellow marker for the water rates. It's just one of those things, we've adopted the rate study at a certain rate, but their rates came in higher. So hopefully with our ongoing rate study reviews and everything, we'll have a lower rate there in the future. In the sewer fund, the revenues to expenditures ratios has improved from prior years and remains closely monitored by the city. As we talked about in the mid-year report, we're really trying to hold down the expenses as we can while continuing to maintain and bring in the revenues to bring those funds back into a right balance. Next slide. So in conclusion, the city's finances are primarily on track as of mid-year. While there are a few identified variances, they're largely driven by timing and updated economic assumptions. Staff are proposing targeted budget adjustments to remain conservative, transparent, and in line with our new expectations for expenditures and revenues. Those adjustments are provided within the agenda packet at pages 102 to 104. And we're going to continue to bring quarterly financial updates to council as our goal remains to manage these public funds with prudence and integrity. I'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you. So we'll start with questions and then we'll start on this side. Is there any questions on this side? Comes. Vice Mayor?
Do we have any sense yet of the Sonoma County Water Agency's rates for this year?
I believe we
have any-
received
we're
some
getting
tentative
close.
rates, but
Yeah.
we have nothing affirmative yet.
Okay.
Is my understanding.
Does Craig have any insight into that? Is the hole getting bigger or is it they coming back in line?
They came in initially at 9.58%.
Okay. Okay, good. That's good. And then I know we receive this quarterly. I'm concerned about some of these that have turned yellow. When do you anticipate us getting the third quarter ones so that we can kind of look to see if we need to kind of look at things a little bit differently as we do the second year budget?
I believe so. This quarterly update would come back in April.
April.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that'll be soon enough for us to make
Absolutely.
any kind of, in
Yes.
case we have to make
'Cause-
some adjustments.
Yeah, because we plan on also doing kind of a final budget update in the June timeframe. So the same time we do a regular budget, we would just then also do an estimated actuals like we've historically done, as well as an adjustment to futures. We would do that, sorry, on the same time frame. So we bring that back then.
Okay, yeah, because some of these that have turned yellow, I would like to make sure that they're trending back to green before we
Yeah.
get into the next year's budget. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Councilmember Savage, did you have a question? No, okay. No? Okay. Okay, thank you. That was also my question too on the yellows on the indicators, and I think some of it's timing of receipts and things that are coming in. So good thing we'll be looking at it in April again. Okay, so we'll go to public comment. Is there anyone in the room that would like to make public comment? Ms. Alderman?
I'm mostly going to read my public comment that is in the packet. While the city staff is trying to hide the outrageous misuse of public funds in the details of the mid-year financial review, such transparency, plus hiding a budget amendment to cover up the outrageous legal costs of Mr. Bakker's firm, where he is a partner of Redwood Public Law, so he's benefiting. To prosecute George Barrick for code violation. The hearing started in November 2023 and are still continuing, wasting more public funds and are scheduled up to April 2026. these amounts she has, it doesn't include, there was a lot of billings that were not billed, not reimbursements, were not done. So we don't know how much Redwood Public Law has actually received, because I've been not given the, for a few months I was given the totals for Redwood Public Law, and they've been refusing to give them ever since June of last year, when they added the extra attorney. That it's benefited your city attorney to do this. Okay. The increase in legals are mostly for hiring of another attorney in June 25 to take over the prosecuting duties in George Barrett's code enforcement case. Because at that point, there was an issue of Robert Smith breaking state bar professional rules of conduct, Rule 3.7, attorney as witness, which is prohibited. Nowhere in the Cotati Municipal Code does it say the city has a right to hire an extra attorney to prosecute possible code violations. It must have been very expensive in using public funds for this attorney if the legal services went from $2,000 to $171,000 this year, a $169,000 difference. I can't even get, since December 1st, 2024, the totals for Redwood Law through these requests, but the city is going to reimburse the fund out of the public eyes. Robert Smith's contract is increased $70,000 to cover the code enforcement prosecution of George Barrett. Problem with that is that the written agreement for over budget needs to be completed before the city services are rendered, not afterward, according to his contract. He's continually gone over budget for the last few years with no budget amendments as required. What will happen now, because you all are the council, are charged for, but if you pass this budget amendment, we can go to this Attorney General and the FPPC, and we can go after you individually, because that's what when we went to the FPPC and that, they wanted the money when you did the money. When the council, and now we'll have it if you pass that. I have been shouting from rooftops about this misuse of public funds for a few years, and nobody's listened. This is misuse of public funds that I've been telling about since 2024. I've asked for an agenda item and you never did it. And now you're in this situation.
Mr. Marich?
Councilman Barrich, Mayor, but believe that Robert Smith actually said with a straight face that I need to get a city permit to rent a room in my house for a roommate because it was a for-profit business. You guys are in big trouble, big trouble. And the very fact that Angela talks about that maybe we're going to get, grants. We're going to get any grants from Gavin Newsom in this sorry state that this financial state is in? We're going to get anything from Trump? Any grants? It's laughable. There have been no violations on my property going back years and years. I had an independent property inspection company come in along with the city do an inspection. You've seen the report. If you guys read the reports that we provide the city, no violations on my property. Code enforcement officer Braden Eggert, working for the city, testified under oath. No violations. This is all a con job and political payback. You're never getting a dime from me. Ever. I have a quick sale of my property lined up with a life estate on my property, and I don't have to pay any fine to anybody. There's a federal lawsuit in the making. My insurance company for my business, who I've paid for 30 years, is standing and ready to come in and defend this suit when I tell them to. There's been criminal charges filed against Mr. Obid, Mr. Hausch, and Mr. Smith under Penal Code 523, racketeering and extortion, especially against an elder like myself. City staff, outside contractor Smith are lining their pockets at the taxpayer's expense. It's clear as a bell. And the city council is complicit by your silence. Silence is consent in the legal profession. It can be. You're complicit unless you stop this tonight. Are you getting any kickbacks to your campaigns because of all this money going this direction? Who knows? Maybe we'll find out. And this is the thanks I get for volunteering hundreds of hours for the code enforcement team. To lighten their load, to bring issues forward from our town as 25-year neighborhood watch captain. And what do I get? Not a thank you, Mr. Savage. Not an attaboy. Nothing. Shocking. You need to fire Robert Smith. You need to disassociate yourself with his company. He's already lost his contract in Cloverdale. Disassociate, disconnect before more damage is done to your reputation. You can't play dumb like this and get away with it any longer. All you're really doing is putting George Barrett back on the city council. When it comes back down to it, wait till I start campaigning this in August. Everybody's going to know what's going on. The journalists are ready to publish everything. This Russia gate, this Barrett gate that you've started is going to backfire. The federal judge once said in my first case against Police Chief Parrish, said, I hope I never see Catotti in my courtroom again. In a full court of other attorneys, we were the first case he called. He says, Catotti needs to go back to school in the First Amendment. Look it up. Look up the transcripts. You are bankrupting our town with your political intolerance and hate for anybody with a different viewpoint. If I was you, I'd be asking myself, man, do I want to look over my shoulder the rest of my life with decisions like this, trying to ruin people's lives? Pretty brave. I couldn't do it. I say turn state's evidence.
Okay, time's up.
Go to the police chief, turn over state's evidence.
Time's up, Mr. Barrett.
And clear yourself, be the whistleblower, stand up for the community.
Anyone else? Mr. Shermello?
One thing that's missing, you've increased the budget for code enforcement, they want an increase in the budget for code enforcement of $239,000. Now, I think that one of you people up here would be asking, what is the reason for this? What is the precise reason for this? Not simply that we need to pay somebody additional money, such as the code enforcement officer. I'm kind of wondering why you want to give a $70,000 increase just for code enforcement. Are you hiring another code enforcement person? Is that for the legal team? There's no explanation. That being said, the budget is just a guess at potential expenditures. I got news for you. If you're going to defend this in federal court, you're going to need to increase your budget by a whole lot more. As it's only a guess, why not increase the budget? Your own code states that these costs need to be approved before, not after they're incurred. You've been informed of this potential for at least 2 years now. And it's highly inappropriate because, number one, like I said, pre-approval. There was no pre-approval. And I'm kind of wondering, are the billings from Redwood Law, have they been paid? Or are now you just increasing your budget to pay those for this hearing? And secondly, no one should be subjected to $250,000 harassment due to exercising their First Amendment rights. That's what you're doing here. You expect all citizens to cave in, and most of them do, to your demands when they are being singled out. Complaint-driven code enforcement is on its face selective enforcement. When you go to one person and say, you got a container in your backyard and you ignore 5 others that are in your own neighborhood, there's a problem with that. We're not going to go away. And I'm not speaking to just myself. I'm speaking to Mr. Barish, Ms. Alderman, Ms. Flores, and Mr. Hilber, and a number of others. We're not caving in. We're not paying your illegal fines. And we will see you in federal court, where the judges who understand the law will again reprimand your attorneys who don't. Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else in the room want to speak on this topic? Okay, we'll go to Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Once again, speaking to our Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please use the raise hand icon. Seeing no hands, Mayor Lemus, that will end public comment.
Thank you. So coming back to the council, is there any more comments or a motion on this item?
I just want to say thank you for all the details. Very informative. I appreciate seeing it.
I'd like to ask the city attorney a question. One of the speakers said that by approving these minor budget amendments, we'd be exposing the city to additional legal liability. Do you see any mechanism by which that's the case?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone want to make a motion?
Make a motion that we adopt a resolution amending the fiscal year 2025-26 operating budget to reflect updated revenue projections and expenditure adjustments.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is 8C, Strategic Priority Review and Update.
I'll start this one off and then I'll have Angela follow if there's any questions. But for the sake of brevity, I won't go through each department in detail to save everyone the anguish of that. But I did want to just point out some of the highlights. So attached are for each department are the day-to-day activities as well as the projects that were approved by the council when we adopted the 2-year budget. So just recall we were talking about this late spring, early summer last year. So the differences though are that we did clean up the project lists because there was things that were completed at the end of last fiscal year. So there's no point in bringing it through. So we cleaned those out. And then also added some new projects that have come up that were unanticipated. Those are shown in red font in the tables, as well as the status, the ongoing completion percentage, and when we think it'll be complete. And I guess, one other thing I just want to point out real quick is that attached, so we recently had a conversation with the project that was entitled on La Plaza by the knife shop, that project that the council saw. So a conversation came out of that about parking and parking management, parking studies. So we did reach out to one of the consultants in our area that does that kind of work, and I attached a scope of work for that. So if the council so decides to add a parking study to the list of projects, we would have to probably move another project down the list, but also understand that there's there's a cost element as well. So the scope of work includes the downtown, and there's a map in there as well. So that's the general area. That is adjustable that wouldn't change the cost, at least not if it's adjusted within reason. And it would include basically surveys during the weekdays and the weekends of parking spaces. And then there's also an option in there, if you read one of the tasks, there's an option to do plate counts. So if you want to actually track a specific vehicle, sometimes that's useful if you're looking for like employee parking, for example. Do employees park in certain areas, like where the employers can make them move out of that area to free up parking for guests. That's, as I understand it from the parking consultant, that's when they might use something like that. But it gives you the general sense anyway of the magnitude of cost if we do a parking study. And if we did do one, it would be my department with probably support from Public Works, the two departments that would take that project. But I'll leave it there. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I did just want to add that did get added onto the city managers just as a tentative line item. So it is in there in red and does have some limited estimated time, but that would be increased if it continued to be moved forward.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. So it is shown there at the very bottom of the green section of the city manager's department. So it can be kept there or it can be removed if the council so decides.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go to questions of City Council. We'll start with Vice Mayor Harvey.
So on the work lists, you mentioned the adding of the parking study. Do we have any sense, because we added that because of the knife shop property to kind of deal with that, do we have any sense of when that project may move forward? Because that lends to how soon or later that we would need to address that. I mean, if they're not planning on doing something right now, then we can get away with what we're doing right now and let people be.
So the knife shop, they would be, even if they came in with building permits, which they have not at this point, it would be probably a year of construction. So it would be a year from now before they're actually occupied and operating. The other project in that general area is 120 East Cotati Avenue, the affordable housing project. And that, as you might recall from the schedule that they're proposing, it's looking like the earliest would be 2028 for that project and maybe as late as 2030, depending on how successful they are with grants.
So while you have that in green on your list, it may need to move because for one thing, we have available staff of minus 0.27, yet you have proposed work of 0.87. So I don't see how any of this is going to get done if we have a minus 0.27 in FTE to do this stuff. Can someone help me understand how that would work? It almost seems like we need to do something there.
Yeah, it would be, if we did do the parking study, we would have to move some stuff off. It was just placed in there for discussion tonight, but we would have to move something off. We didn't want to assume what the council would want to move out of the green.
But even at that, we have an available FTE to do any of that work of minus 0.27. So how are we proposing getting any of that done? And do we need to take a look at not only moving that, but maybe moving some other items to have any possibility of getting some of it done? I mean, just help me with that because I don't understand how a minus 0.27 person can get anything done.
Yeah, so on the day-to-day, this comes directly from our timesheets.
Yeah.
And you'll notice, I think some departments have people that work significantly over 40 hours a week. So that's why it shows negative. But it's all, I don't know. I don't have a great answer for you right now, but I can look through the project list and just give me a minute and I can tell you which ones are more likely to slip than others.
Okay.
You know?
Because that's really my question. Do we need to move more so we have a chance of getting some things done on city managers?
I will also point out that a lot of them, like you see, are partially done or 50% or, so the amount of time left on them is not going to be necessarily that full amount going forward. That makes sense. So because the estimated FTE is the full FTE for the full project, and if it's already at 50% as of the end of the year, we might not, it might only have 0.04 left. So taking that first line, city website refresh. So if we're at 50% and the estimated FTE is 0.08, then that would be estimated that way they would need 0.04 to complete it, if that makes sense.
Right, but we do have some that are 0% complete. And
Understood.
So my question is should we be moving some of those? Because it's obvious they're not going to be done in the city manager's office. And then in community development, we have a similar situation. And my question there was, is it possible, because it looks like things are better in the 26, 27. So is it possible to shift some of those things from this year to next year? Because it looks like there's more bandwidth next year. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, there's definitely a possibility to move some things down.
And then same with, what's this one? Administrative services. They have available FTE of 0.01, yet 1.22 of work to be done. So I'm questioning whether or not that can get done if we don't have resources to do it. Do we need to do adjusting there? It looks like on Public Works, there's some possibility for us to do some moving from one year to the next, maybe. Is that possible? And it looks like the police department is pretty darn close. So those are my questions of trying to help with this list.
Well, will it clear up some space? I see some things that say fall 2025 that are still on here with the 0.04, for example. Will some of those be adjusted maybe?
I don't know. Because
I see some 2024, 2025 that look like they're done, but they're still on some of these listed with the partial FTEs.
You're looking at community development, correct?
Oh, well, I was looking at Public Works,
Public Works.
but I think I see it in the other ones too.
Okay.
That there's some that look like they're completed, but there's still a estimated FTE in there.
Yeah, there are some. I mean, there's a couple. It's, I don't think it makes up the entire difference, but there is a couple there. Yeah. That were already completed this year or during the fiscal year, they've already been completed.
Or I think the reason they probably weren't filtered out, because I apologize, is because they're on hold. So there's probably an item or something pending, or it was moved off. And so some of them are on hold, even though it says it's at 100%, but it's just stuck in a process. Or we're not moving forward on it at this time.
My question is the math doesn't really kind of work for me.
Yeah,
I don't know,
that's just one example. I think.
Right.
Ways
Yeah.
to my math
Yeah.
person. Professional.
Or I guess I could also see maybe the red and the yellow, maybe they may not be worked on as much and that would leave some FTEs for some of the green things. I guess I'm trying to understand it too.
So the sum of the proposed FT priority 1 would be the sum of all of them that are in green. So that is just the ones that are in green that are pulling through to that proposed priority and that first under fiscal year 25, 26. I think, yeah. And then assuming that the ones that are yellow and red are going to fall to the subsequent year and be what you use your available FTE in the subsequent year.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I was just going to say, rather than it'd be a lot of moving stuff around kind of on the fly, but I think, one thing I mean, I definitely hear your point. And one thing we can do is do another round on this after we hear feedback from the council as to what the important priority projects are. I mean, you see what's in green. If there's anything that's more important than less, that would be helpful feedback. And then we can come back at the next meeting with an update that hopefully will be a little bit more balanced.
Yeah, well, definitely think parking was something that's come up in the last several months at different meetings. So I think definitely that should get some priority on our list.
I'm gonna hold comments, but I just want to ask, so the budgeted effective FTE is half the annual budgeted FTE, I assume, because this is a 6-month work. Is that right?
Which one are you referring
Well,
to?
in each of the departments, when you're calculating that number, that negative 0.27 is, current timesheets subtracted from budgeted FTE. And I'm assuming that budgeted FTE is half of the annual budgeted FTE.
No, we took a full year's data.
Oh, this is January through December?
Yes, this is January through
2025.
December for the timesheets for that full detail. So that's where we get everything based on the FTE for those activities for a full calendar year. And then we compare that to the FTE for the budget.
Okay, so we have actuals for the day-to-day activities. Do we have actual timesheets for the projects? Like, do we know how much time it's been put in on the projects? I don't think that's in here.
We
right?
do know that too.
Okay,
Yeah. I mean, to the extent that there's been a project created in the timesheet system.
right.
Yeah. I mean, mostly for any project of any significant time, there would be.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
Can I ask one question on the proposal from W-Trans? I noticed at the very end of it, they are also asking for mileage. But I also noticed that they have offices in Santa Rosa and in Oakland. If we were to move forward with them, could we request that they utilize, where at all possible, Santa Rosa staff to keep because those can add up pretty quickly if we have people, since there's a lot of, looks like, work here that needs to be done here. Is that a possibility or?
Yeah, I certainly,
Okay, all right.
certainly can ask for sure. And
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, any other comments? Questions from council? Okay, we'll go to public comment and we'll start on Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment on this item. Mayor Lemus, there are no hands on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go into the room. Anyone in the room would like to speak on this topic? Okay, nobody. So we'll bring it back to City Council for any final comments on this or additional questions.
I'll just say that I think the parking study is with both that, the knife shop property project and the 120 East Cotati coming down the pike. That's a pretty important topic, and our issues with the existing parking lot that we're currently paying too much for. That whole issue is going to come to a head, I think. So best to be out in front of it. I'm not sure what to push down the list to make room for that. So I think a second round and discussion of that, once you have had a chance to look at that and think more about, well, where's the time to do any of this going to come from? That would be good.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I feel like we need some options as to what we can push down based upon, what you guys think would be best. We certainly don't want to take something that's 80% done and move it down. We should finish out things that are already started, but looks like there's some number of things that haven't started. And so any options for moving things around, I think would be helpful because we need you to be successful.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments?
I just think the parking study would benefit our existing merchants and people downtown, as well as prepare us for what's coming down the road too.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I added that, because it's not in the study, but or not in the scope, but the study would be about 12 months long. So it takes about a year once you start to do the parking study. Piece of information that might be helpful as you discuss it.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So do you need any additional information from us or? Yes.
So Damien, I read their proposal. My question is, and maybe I just missed it in reading it. So will they also take a look at the projects that are forthcoming and include that in their analysis rather than just what's there now?
Well, it wouldn't be factored into the actual council course because they don't exist yet, but they would know. I mean, we would walk them through all the different projects that are approved, and they would know just from there's traffic and engineering manuals that they use to say this kind of use develops this kind of project parking requirement, and they could use that to estimate. You know what? So like what if 120 comes in or the project next to the knife shop comes in. How many cars based on the on-site parking and available off-site, what would they estimate the impact would be within the existing sort of environment?
So they will consider those projects that are in the works.
They try to estimate it, the future growth.
I mean, obviously ones that we know nothing about.
Right.
I get that, but there are at least a couple that we are aware of.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it looks like they will. Task force is current and future parking demand analysis. And then that they take land use data or something to project in the future parking need. So maybe, hopefully that's included in that.
Yeah, they use land use data for the more like the unknown, but to the extent that we actually know, or we expect, I should say.
Okay.
They can use more precise information.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, do you have enough information from us? Any other comments, anyone?
I think I understand
Okay.
the dilemma that the council has. So yeah.
Yeah, just the FTEs kind of tighten up a little bit more, and then where will we take the time from to work on some of these other projects that we have priority? Okay, all right, thank you. We're going to go on to the next topic, was the traffic signalization project is the next one.
Okay, so this is actually somewhat timely. We are looking at some signalization updates. So we've for many years, for the last 5 years at least, we've been working on the traffic signals. So, and even actually even before that, we did work such as we added emergency beacon and switches for the signals. And the city owns the signals that you would think of as city signals, the ones within the city limits, except for the ones on Highway 116. So the ones at the off and on ramps on Highway 101 and the one at Redwood Drive, those are owned by Caltrans. So the city doesn't control those signals, so we have to work with Caltrans to do things like adding the infrared flashing beacon receivers on those signals. And that's for emergency services. So many years ago, it's actually shortly after Caltrans did the freeway project in this segment of 101, we had Caltrans add those emergency vehicle beacons to expedite emergency transit through that corridor, specifically fire, because fire are the ones that most typically have those kind of infrared strobes on their vehicles. And a couple years after that, we all did a significant amount of work on the signals, basically from Commerce, Old Redwood Highway corridor. So Commerce, the 116 intersection, and then the Old Redwood Highway, East Cotati, West Sierra intersection. Obviously, there's a gap in between William and George at the moment, but they're ready for interconnection so that they operate together, and that helps just more smoothly flow traffic through, and also minimizes stops and starts. So eventually, when the William George signal goes in, then there'll be a uniform, interconnected corridor. And it just, you can do things to try to reduce idling and stopping at lights and just expediting traffic through. And especially as Rohnert Park, as you've seen, grows, our transit station area grows, just having that facilitation of traffic is going to be helpful. And then we've done a bunch of, a variety of other work that I won't really get into because it's probably not that relevant to what we're talking about tonight. But one of the things that we are looking at is emergency backup. And the reason why I say it's timely is because there was a power outage this weekend that took out power in part of Cotati. And one of our signals, actually one of the signals that's in the list here, Old Highway at Myrtle and Valparaiso, that signal does not have a battery backup on it. And so when the power went out for 2.5 hours, it went out in the middle of the night as well, but it went out from like 8 to 11, and then that signal went dark. And so this is something that we first noticed in the fires, so in the late, basically, right, 2017. A lot of cities were not fully prepared for that. And so you have dark signalized intersections. And what you're supposed to do as a driver is you're supposed to stop and treat it like a stop sign. But a lot of people don't remember that or don't think of that, and they just go right through the intersection. And it creates a safety hazard. And then there's, some cities did things like put barricades out in the intersections for prolonged power outages with stop signs on it. But then the signal turns back on, and then there's a stop sign there too, and that creates even more confusion. So the best solution is just to have a battery backup that runs the signal for a period of time, long enough for Public Works to get out there and attach a little like suitcase generator to it so it can run basically in perpetuity while the power's out. So if the council approves this item tonight, one of the main things is adding the final battery backup system. So there's a couple signals about Old Highway at Myrtle and Valparaiso is one of them. There's a signal on Redwood Drive at Hemlin right by Lowe's that does not have a battery backup on it currently. And then there's the Santero ones. This is the smart interconnected series of signals. That one does have a battery backup, but it was something installed by Sonoma County Transit installed it when they put the signal in back in the day. And the battery backup system it's not the same system that we use for the rest of our signals. And it also doesn't include a connector for an emergency generator. So once it runs through its 4 hours of backup power, it's just, it's a dark signal at that point. So the 3 signals that are proposed are those 3 signals to get battery backups, and then put on Santero a uniform system that's similar to us that also has a generator connection. The other piece that's being requested tonight is to swap the signal controller for Old Redwood Highway at Valparaiso and Myrtle, because that signal controller is antiquated, and it just needs to be replaced because a lot of the modern signal timing things that we need to do to it, it just doesn't have that functionality. It's pretty old. So those 2 things are what we're requesting tonight. There's also some other things in these scopes of work that you see attached that are not related to that emergency work. And so you can see what it is that some other things we have planned that I'm happy to talk about if the council wants to talk about it. But the general approach here is that we have some other projects that are out for bid right now. We have the road maintenance project out for bid right now. Very shortly, the pathway project, the Laguna Pathway project, is going to go out to bid. And so we want to see how the bids come in, given the, just the conservative nature we want to stay because we want to make sure that we have adequate funding before we award other things that aren't strictly necessary at this time, particularly given where most of the other cities in this county are, as you know, experiencing significant budget issues. And one of the reasons why we are not is because we don't overextend ourselves. So that's just in the vein of that. So anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions if the council has any.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Okay, no questions. We'll go to public comment, and we'll start with Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. Mayor Lemus, there are no hands on Zoom.
Okay, we'll go to room. Any comments on this topic in the room? Okay, we'll bring it back to council. Yeah, I think it's for safety, emergencies, and we need to have this. It's really important. But I don't know if we have any other comments or if we want to make a motion on this.
I just want to say, I agree. It's super important. I was down in San Francisco when they had their big power outage a month or so ago, and came off of, Presidio down into town, and that first light as you come into town is just dark and everybody's flying through it. So they don't have battery backup on all their signals, and ooh, it was scary. So yes, I think it's super important to get these installed.
Do you want a motion?
Motion, please.
Make a motion, we adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary agreements with DC Electric and allocation of necessary funds for the detailed traffic signal improvements and emergency backup.
Second.
Okay. First and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, thank you. And with that, we'll move on to the next topic, which is a discussion on potential topics for future Community Police Advisory Committee meetings. I think that one came up
Mhm.
from City Council.
Yeah, and there's no real staff report on this. It was a request of council to
Mhm.
have the discussion. We do have a police community advisory meeting coming up mid-February. So depending on the level of effort required, it could potentially make that one, or maybe it's a subsequent one. But anyway, happy to hear what the council has in mind.
Should I just introduce why I would love to give this committee a year or two to get its feet under itself, but given what's happening in the country, I felt it was important to have a discussion about whether there are policy recommendations we want them to consider, policy areas we want them to talk about in advance of it being in our face and on our doorstep. And so that's why I brought it up, and I want to sort of save specifics until it's discussion time.
Okay. Okay, so how should we approach this? With questions first about this, or go to public comment and then come back with comments? Okay, so we'll go to public comment first, and we'll start with the room. Okay, Mr. Barrich.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mr. Ford, for placing this on the agenda. I think it's very timely and very thoughtful. I've attended both of the last two meetings of the Police Advisory Commission from beginning to end. I've participated in many of the agendized items. I've given them a walk down memory lane from my 30 years experience here in Cotati with the first Police Advisory Board, subsequent neighborhood watch programs, my suggestions for the police department, and so forth, and made recommendations that they do police ride-alongs, as I did when I was on the council, many recommendations. Also followed up with emails at both meetings recapping my suggestions, my desires, my prayers, and support, my willingness to help, and I received no reply. And that's why I want to thank Mr. Ford, because this type of, I don't know, apathy, irresponsibility is why the first Police Advisory Commission was dissolved in the first place. And I've told the chief this, I don't want to see this happen again. If they're not doing anything, not getting anywhere, and they're a rubber stamp for the police department, if they're too afraid to stand up and make any healthy, constructive criticisms on how we can keep our town more safe, more livable, more lovable, then we're doing something wrong. So I applaud you for at least putting this on the agenda, because we have a lot of work to do. I'm going to attend this next meeting. I hope you're there too. I hope I see you at the fire district meetings too. But we need to let them know they have our support. They can speak freely about police issues, public safety issues, how we can support the police department morally, financially. I bring food treats to the police station often for them to share. And your suggestions will be greatly appreciated, because every healthy community has a citizens-based police review board to act as some level of a check and balance to the power structure of a police department. And, we don't want to see favoritism at the police department. We don't want them to overlook crimes of a city hall or city council members because of this relationship between the police department and city hall. These are all very difficult issues, but this council should be on the forefront of keeping the advisory commission on track to being encouraged, excited that this new advisory commission has been started, and a commitment that we want it to succeed. We have a wonderful police chief. We have some wonderful officers. Some have come, some have gone. And we know what happens in every city with police officers. This happens. And that's never a reason to give up and throw our hands up. So I applaud you on this item, and I hope to see you at the next meeting and encourage that the advisory board communicate with people who reach out to them. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Alderman?
I'm also one of the few people that have attended these police advisory committee. Most times, people don't know about it. It's not really advertised as much as like Community Beat and stuff. The police advisory board, they're a bunch of good people. They're inexperienced how to run meetings, but they're very honest and they're very good. And they need to be able to speak freely and also not have council policies put on them. Your policies are not the same as the people of Cotati. Your priorities are not the same as the people. These are very real people on the police oversight committee. And you need to let them speak freely about any issue, any way to improve it. And you need to definitely advertise, get more people in those seats, because it's there's most time people don't know. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Yes, Ms. Holmes?
Sorry. I'm going to echo Mr. Barringer for applauding you bringing the topic forward. And love that this is the question. And then I'm going to also echo Ms. Alderman in that question of inviting the committee to ask something of you, or to say where it is that you can leverage, as much as you put topics on the committee of what you might want to see, but also to be able to say, how can you use the city council to support their work? And what that might include the invitations, making that broader. How do we show up for you as Cotati residents in support of the work that you want to do, and bringing those topics forward? So anything that can continue to bring that out, just fully encourage, because it is a timely question. And I think many of us are asking, how can we show up to support the structures that are in place, which include you and include the committee. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the room want to speak on this topic? If not, did we already go to Zoom? Okay, we'll go to Zoom. Kevin, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a comment on this item. Seeing no hands, Mayor Lemus, that will end public comment.
Okay, thank you. So we'll bring it back to council now for any thoughts or ideas or considerations that we have.
I'm happy to start. I have family in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and have watched as local law enforcement there is in a very reactive position in the face of what's essentially an occupation by outside forces. And that not knowing, like, they were totally unprepared for what happened, because nobody could be prepared because it's never happened before. And so we see cities across the country making kind of reactive decisions, like, Chicago has assigned the police to document activity by outside agencies in the city. And there's just all kinds of questions that come up when when the purpose, the aim of the outside agency doesn't match the serve and protect mission of the local law enforcement. And I think that so my proposal is that we ask the Community Police Advisory Committee to have an agenda item to discuss and recommend to us any city policies that they think would be appropriate about outside agency activity in Cotati, including consideration of use of city-owned property by outside agencies, discussion of continued participation in ALPR data sharing and retention, and any policies they think we ought to consider about Cotati Police documentation of activity of outside agencies. So I'm not proposing we have this discussion, but I'm proposing that that's an agenda item I'd like to see them discuss. When we wrote their charter, it included the ability to recommend policies to the council. They're not a policy-making body. They're an advisory body to the chief and to us. And so I'd like to ask them to consider those discussions, and it is very timely. This is not something that could be put off for a quarter.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Ford. Now, is this something that the chief or city manager will be making a list as we make comments on this, or how will this be recorded?
Yeah, I think we're both making lists.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's continue on this side. Any comments on this side?
No, I think it's, like you said, it's very good timing, and I think anything we can do to get input from the community prior would be very beneficial for us.
Thank you. Thank you. I did have a couple things. I just printed out this article that came out last week. Mountain View Police, they say the feds access their license plate data without permission. So it was an article that just came out last week. So I was also interested in having them look at the ALPR. I don't know if we use Flock or a different type of camera system. But whichever system, there was an article that Mountain View Police said that the federal government was able to access it without permission. So I want to make sure that our data is secure, that we have the right time frame for holding retention of information, and also to kind of to support what Councilmember Ford said. I went to a meeting last week, within the last couple of weeks, with legislators, mayors, police chiefs around the county and our region, that this was a concern. And there's not a plan, but at the same time, there's what we're seeing is like a loss of local control when there's issues, when outside agencies come in, and disruption to families and communities. And so I think that the county and other jurisdictions are looking at how we can kind of support what they call 0.0 plus when something happens forward, type of thing. But I think it would be good, like you said, some of these recommendations for them to look at ALPR readers, and also use of facilities or not use resources, facilities or staff, and look and see what other agencies are doing. Because I think other cities, other agencies are also working on this topic. So maybe we can come up with something similar. It'd be good for them to look at. Go ahead.
And I did want to, I meant to say, I'm sure that the chief is working with all the other agencies in the county and working, and the city managers are all, I'm sure they're all talking about this in tactical level and, how we respond when things happen. But I think there's a role for policies at the council level that might take the onus off of local law enforcement in sort of interacting with their colleagues from other agencies. So I'm not asking that the Police Advisory Committee be the body that talks about tactics. That's I don't, that's police role. But policy level stuff, I would like to see if they have some things to recommend to us.
Okay. Any other comments? No. Okay, so I think is there anything else needed from that? We got it?
I think I have it. Yeah. I
Okay,
think we're good.
And
Okay.
so are we okay without a motion? We'll make sure that's on the agenda at this coming meeting.
Yeah, it's just direction at this point. We would have at least an initial conversation about it at the next meeting.
Okay, I'm inclined to make a motion if you're not committing to have it on the agenda at this meeting.
No, we are. We are committing. I don't want you to misunderstand that. It's
Okay.
just that if there's if the committee might want more information is what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
So you may not make all the decisions in one meeting. It might be
Absolutely.
a series of meetings.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you. So then we'll move on to the next item. The next item is a land acknowledgement and pledge of allegiance. So if you want to stand and join us. The city of Cotati recognizes and from the ancestral lands of the coastal Miwok, who are the original caretakers of this area, and we respectfully acknowledge the indigenous people who have been stewarding and maintaining a relationship on this land as knowledge keepers for millennia. This acknowledgement does not take the place of authentic relationships with indigenous communities, but serves as a gesture of respect to the land that we are on. And now join us in pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Mayor, may I speak on this matter?
Yes, go ahead. You may speak on this matter.
Thank you. Or Kevin? Thank you. Thank you, sir. Council, I've spoken on this matter many times on different particular issues I find offensive with this matter, this land acknowledgement in particular. And I do not want to regurgitate many of my arguments, but I want to bring two things to your attention. One, the first line says the city of Cotati recognizes that we are on ancestral land of the coastal Miwoks. Now, if that's the case, it begs the question whether we paid for that land, whether we stole that land, whether we traded for that land, whether we know what in the hell went on, how we got this land. Because we're the ones paying taxes on it. We're the one maintaining it. The city's maintaining their part of it as best they can. And there's been some issue in the media recently about this fact of, is this land stolen land? And it's brought a lot of attention nationwide, this issue of stolen land. And for us to digest that and discuss this and decide whether, if in case that's true, whether we need to give that land back. And I want you to sit with that for a little while before we come back to this issue, because it's not going away. It's not going away in any other part of the country. If we are surely on stolen land, we better acknowledge what we're going to do about it and either amend this land acknowledgement to reflect that so we can deal with it like adults, or we're going to sweep it under the rug. Those are my first thoughts about this with the recent controversy of stolen land that we're on and how we should be feeling about being the thieves, if we are thieves at all. The other issue, the second issue I want to talk to you about, is I strongly feel that these two issues of the land acknowledgement and the Pledge of Allegiance are mutually exclusive. They have no business being on the same item together. One was used to drag in the other to legitimize it and so forth. I find that offensive. I think the land acknowledgement, if you're going to do this, and I'm offended by it, you have addressed my concern and my request to put it towards the end of the meeting. And I want to thank the council for doing that. For those of us who think it's offensive, most of the city's business is done. We who are offended by it can leave and leave you here to prophesize about ancestral land, hold hands, sing songs, beat drums, smoke a peace pipe, whatever you want to do. We respect it. Just some of us don't want to be a part of it. So, and I think the Pledge of Allegiance needs to be at the beginning of the meeting where it was for 50 years. Sets a tone for this city, as is done in many other cities across the country. Meetings are started with the Pledge of Allegiance, often followed by a moment of silence. And then we conduct our meeting. It sets a tone of professionalism and mutual respect for the people who died and fought so that we could be here. So I'm going to leave that with you to consider putting it on a future agenda to separate these items, which I think makes more sense. I find it offensive. We get to the end of the meeting and people have come and gone from these meetings, have not been have not enjoyed the Pledge of Allegiance, especially the developers and students and college kids have come in and so forth. Please take that into consideration. I'd like to see it on our future agenda.
Okay, Ms. Halderman?
The land acknowledgement also isn't factually correct. Prue Draper and everybody in the Cotati Historical Society did not have the benefit of newspapers going back to 1850 and everything like that. Cotati Rancho was owned by the Page brothers from 1870 to 1940, and they had you could not trespass, you could not hunt, you could not that. And that was Cotati Rona Park. So this is not the ancestral lands. Maybe way back, but we don't know that. It was basically the Page brothers. They sold off the subdivisions to the wealthy white people of the area. That's why we're now 70% white. It was because the property was bought. We've always been, and only diversity has come over this years. Certain sections of this town, I don't know if there's another person with diversity. I live in the rich area, West Side, and I don't see anybody. Anyway, the other thing is you killed off Chief Cotati a few years ago, a real live person who you made it into a comic. He was the MC. He was a Kasha brand of Pomo, and he was the MC of the Indian Summer Festival, and his likeness was put, and the sign was done by the Recreation Committee in 1977. I was a kid. I remember this. It was an intertribal meeting that was wonderful. It was so educational when I was a kid. And you taking off Chief Cotati, you did what everybody else does. You erase their history, the real history. Other histories you may not know, but where it was Pomos and Miwoks, and basically they lived in Crane Canyon. And every time that John Reed was a farmer, and he came up from the mission in San Rafael, and every fall, because it's a spiritual practice of the Native Americans of this area, they burn the fields so that it's like a sent to encourage other scents, new growth. And so so John Reed got his lands burnt, and he kept going back to San Rafael and gave up. That's the history that you should be telling the children and everything in fourth grade field trips here, not what the historical side. You have enough information now to tell the truth. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else in the room would like to speak on this topic? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Holmes.
I wanted to say thank you. I appreciate where it is and how it's jointly put together. I felt like I could be in a room with contradictions and where we are in the moment, and it's not easy to create change. And I also say thank you for continuing to hold the space for us to have the conversation.
Okay, so we'll go to Zoom now and see. Did everybody go to Zoom or not yet? Okay, go to Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Lemus. Anybody on Zoom wishing to make a comment on this item, please use the raise hand icon. Mayor Lemus, there are no hands on Zoom. That will end public comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. So now we'll move on to city manager's report and council member reports. We'll start city manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, Council. So just a couple things last night or this long weekend, we did have the power outage, as I mentioned earlier. Public Works crew was, in addition to the signal, some sewer lift stations also lost power. So our Public Works crew was out there hooking them up and keeping them running so that we didn't have any sewage overflows, and also monitoring the Sonoma County Water. Sonoma Water has turnouts, including the one here by City Hall that lost power. So when it fails, when the power goes off, it fails open. So we have to monitor that. It just means the tank gets really full really quick. So we just have to make sure that that doesn't go too high and spill and create other issues for us. The 2026 street paving project is out to bid, opening early March. So expect to see, hopefully, as long as the bids are reasonable, come to council in mid-March. And that's finished. The primary work under that contract is finishing off the rehabilitation or the maintenance work on East Cotati Avenue. So from Bay Tree all the way to the city limits by Sunflower Park. And then some other repair areas around town. Just a reminder that starting this month, we're holding free monthly workshops focused on sustainability with experts presenting on various topics. This is the EcoWise workshop series that I mentioned before. And also the Climate Ready Cotati Fair is scheduled for March 28th out of the train depot. So both of those should be, well, the fair is actually, you should see all the people that are joining us. It's going to be very, even more popular this year than last year. And then this past weekend was our first annual Sparks and Seeds Festival at the ranch, the Verona Flitti Ranch. And it also coincided with our free compost giveaway weekend and spring germination workshop. So in total, they had about 60 people attend the ranch. And then we're doing Valentine's grams. We're doing Valentine gram deliveries this Thursday. So that's coming up. Valentine's Day is around the corner for anyone that hasn't got their stuff ready. Be forewarned. All right. And then March is also just really busy for recreation. We have our camp, Cotati Spring Break Camp from March 16th to 20th, Spring Break Camp, Farm Camp for on March 16th through 19th, so they coincide. Free Open Ranch Day on March 13th from 3 to 5:30, and the community yard sale here at City Hall March 21 from 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and then Bunny Brunch on March 28th from 9 to 12 in the morning. So there's a lot going on in this coming up in this March. And then finally, we're continuing to host the free compost weekends at Verona Flitti Ranch, volunteer days, Wednesday early release enrichment. And newly added was the Intro to Garden Critters workshop on March 14th at the ranch from 2 to 4 p.m. So I'll leave it there, but I'm happy to answer any questions if the council has any.
Okay, great. Any questions of city manager? Okay, we'll start with the council member reports. Anyone? Do we start on this end?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. And we'll go to Vice Mayor.
I just have two items. I attended the LAFCO meeting the other day, and we were looking at some policies with regard to the disadvantaged unincorporated communities. So putting together a policy as they go to review to look at those to include annexation into some of the cities. So that was pretty quick. And yesterday I attended the SCTCA meeting. And of note there, just a couple of things. They will be updating the Sonoma Climate Mobilization Strategy. So it's going to take them about a year to do that, but they're kind of, they put it out there, and we had some 2030 goals, and we're not necessarily there yet. So they're reassessing where we're at with those goals. And they will be looking for input on that to see, do we need to change some of them? Do we need to move the date out? So that'll be coming. And then the second item of note for us, we did a professional services agreement with a company called Tool Design for safe streets and roads for Sonoma County. And there was 2 projects in there that Cotati had. One, we got a demonstration corridor project, and that project is on Redwood Drive, and it's 0.4 miles, and it's kind of where you demonstrate different features to see what works or not. It was kind of cool how they showed, they put up, temporary things, and then people get to kind of vote on it and see, does this work? Does that work? Even some not necessarily there, but for some of the other cities, like would a roundabout work here? And so they do like a little pop-up roundabout and see how that works. And then we also got an award for a transition plan for ADA. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Ford?
All my meetings are this coming week.
Okay, thank you.
It's a busy week.
Okay, so on January 29th, I went to Zero Waste Sonoma for Vice Mayor Harvey, and we approved the additional budget expense for emergency contracts for composters because a machine had broken down, so we needed some emergency contracts. On January 29th, I went to a joint meeting with Congressman Thompson, other legislators, local police chiefs, and mayors to talk about immigration enforcement status and other kind of issues. On the same day, I met with the United Nepalese of California, an organization locally. Learned there's about 3,000 Nepali residents and 40 Nepali businesses in our region. On the February 2nd, I went to Veranda Faletti Ranch and had a meeting with the staff there. It was a great meeting. They have a lot of programming ideas and some grants they're looking at getting. So it was a really good meeting I had with them. On February 4th, I presented to the Sunshine Breakfast Club in Santa Rosa. I don't know if it's Rotary. They said they're not Rotary, but it seemed like Rotary. I'm not sure. But it was a Sunshine Breakfast Club. It was a really good conversation I had with the members there. On February 4th, I went to my first Homeless Coalition meeting. It was a special meeting that they had, and it was to reallocate funding. There was $39,000 that had to be reallocated, and it was reallocated to a homeless management information system expansion project, and they're going to go after other grants, but they had to kind of reallocate that money before they can go after some other grants. So it was a special meeting for that reallocation. On February 5th, I went to Sonoma Clean Power meeting, and I was selected as the next vice chair-elect of the board of Sonoma Clean Power, so it was exciting. I went to a Mike McGuire event, Luther Burbank Center on the 5th. On the 6th, Regional Parks Foundation board meeting, and then February 9th, I went on behalf of Councilmember Sparks to the WAC special meeting that they had. It was the Water Advisory Committee. And earlier I went to the Cotati Chamber of Commerce meeting before I came to this meeting. At the Chamber of Commerce, they have their awards ceremony, the Cotati Annual Awards, where they have a number of individuals and businesses that receive recognition. And everyone's invited to come to that event this Friday. I'll be there. I'll be helping to set up and decorate, and I'll be there as well as some other members in our community. So we invite everyone to come out to that. And that's what I have for today. So with that, let me see. Was there any information received after the agenda was posted?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Lemus. There were 2 public comments received. Both of those were distributed to the council and are available in print here in the chamber tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we adjourn the meeting at 8:23 p.m. Thank you.